Welcome to episode 3 of the Water Prairie Chronicles.
This podcast is about supporting parents who have children with different types of disabilities. Our guest for this episode is a busy teenager who happens to have a visual impairment. I wanted to interview Olivia as a way of showing parents of young children with visual impairments what their children might be doing when they're going through the school years. To keep the episodes as close to 30 minutes as we can, we're releasing episode 3 in 2 parts.
You're listening to part 2 of the interview, where Olivia gives some tips for teachers who work with visually impaired students, some of the activities she's involved with, and her plans for the future.
So the next part, do you have any tips for teachers that are teaching students with a visual impairment?
I would say if you're like a mainstream like classroom teacher, teaching 25 plus students, I've found it really helpful throughout school to have the teacher just kind of explain to the class, hey, you've got this student, and you don't have to go into detail, but just to say the student has a visual impairment or, whatever other disability it may be. It helps them if you can read stuff to them or describe an image to them or whatever it is you're working on, just to kind of raise the awareness of kind of, hey, you're working with this person who may need a little more help than the rest of you guys. And obviously you can ask the student beforehand, hey, are you comfortable if I say, talk to the class and just be like, hey, you guys should try and help this person out who may need a little more help than the rest of you. And then if you're like a TVI or Brailleist or something like that, I would say let the student let them figure things out before you kind of swoop in and just handle everything. Obviously if you've got a kindergartner, they're not going to know how to advocate for themselves, but to kind of show them step by step, hey, this is how we do this, or how we go about this situation. That way when they get to 4th, 5th, 6th grade or beyond, they can start to handle those conversations on their own instead of then not knowing what to do when they all of a sudden have to deal with their teachers.
Some good advice there, because I would think that it would be tempting for someone, if their job is to be there to help you when you need help, to jump in quickly. And
yeah, and sometimes that's necessary, but also part of learning is doing. And so if you're just going to jump in and do everything for them, then they're not going to learn.
So giving them time to process what they're thinking about before giving them the answer to everything.
Right.
Okay.
And kind of going about how they may handle something, like, hey, I don't have my Braille copy for this math problem, before the TVI just goes up to the teacher, maybe the student go up to the teacher and be like, hey, I don't have this math problem. Can you please send it to my Brailleist so he or she can get it brailled for me? Obviously, if you're in kindergarten, you might not be doing stuff like that, but by the time you get to 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, I think you should be starting to handle those situations a little more.
So in elementary school, you had someone with you pretty much all the time, between the Brailleist and the TVI?
Mm-hmm.
And then in middle school, did you not have someone with you all the time?
In middle school, I transitioned to the online school. They go all the way K through 12. And so, no, I didn't have anyone, sitting with me. Obviously, my mom was here with me, but it was definitely a huge leap from going from not knowing much technology to doing my whole school online.
And I'm sure at that point the screen readers became very important.
Oh, yes. Oh,
With it.
yes. I learned a lot of tech in a very short time.
I remember when you were first starting, because Emily was at the same school, so but had different accommodations than you did. That the school was having to learn along with you
Mm-hmm.
what they needed to do and where some of the lapses were in the curriculum.
Yeah, because they had never had a fully VI student. And so, obviously, there are things that a screen reader won't read, such as images. And so, if they had like an image of text, the screen reader wasn't going to read that. But if it was part of the curriculum, they had to figure out how I could access that curriculum.
So now I know on, like, whenever I post things on social media, I'll use the alt text, and the screen
Mm-hmm.
readers are supposed to read that, correct?
Yes, they will read the alt text.
So in the curriculum, they're not using an alt text option then for those images. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So,
Okay.
um, in like history class especially is where we see a lot of images of text. And so I would either say, "Hey, can you send this to me in a PDF or Word doc?" And I can run OCR, which pulls the text out of an image, or they would have to go in and rewrite that whole curriculum to put the entire document in alt text just so I could read it.
Right. Okay. The and for those that are listening, the school that we keep talking about is a K-12 school, and I believe there's at least 40 states in the United States that have K-12 schools. So and I know that it is an option for homeschooling too. So a lot of our listeners may be familiar with the K-12 program. There are other online charter schools as well, but this is the one that's in our community that we are talking about. So if you're in another part of the country and you're using the curriculum from the K-12 with a younger child, you can thank Olivia for helping to get them ready for you, so that they're already getting their act together, hopefully for future generations of kids coming through with visual impairment.
Yeah. And if you ever have a question about making something accessible, feel free to reach out or whatever. And I mean, there's answers out there, and just contacting the K-12 and being like, "Hey, this isn't working for me. Can we work on an alternative?" They should be more than happy to help you with that.
And I think that's an important piece for all of our listeners who have children with a disability, no matter what the disability may be, is to keep in mind that just because something isn't a clear path today doesn't mean there's not a way to do it. It's thinking outside the box sometimes and finding out a different way of doing it. And it might be that you're going to come up with a solution that no one has thought of yet. And
Yes.
so it, just keep on trying. You don't have to get upset. You don't have to get mad. Just back up and regroup, and then look for another alternative that's out there. But
Yes, I
yeah, go ahead.
I was talking to my dad the other day about accommodations, and I was kind of half joking, but I was like, they should just give me my degree in business management,
There you
because
go.
as much as I explain to people how, this is supposed to be done to be accessible, and thinking of ways to get around, a certain inaccessibility. I mean, you've constantly got something you're working with, but figuring it out, it can be worth it.
But I think it's something too, that it's skills that, like you say, it could be a whole career path, but no matter what you do, you're going to be doing some type of problem solving and organization in the job
Right.
that you eventually do. So
Yeah,
you're getting a
definitely.
chance to grow some skills earlier than other kids
Oh,
are forced
yes.
to. Fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, it is a skill that's there, that's going to help, and whether it be in work or just in running your household one day, you're going to run into things. We all do, that we have to figure out how we're going to do it. And just giving up is never the answer. The answer is, you know I don't see what the answer is yet, but I'm either going to make some phone calls, I'm going to ask my neighbor, I'm going to do something to find the solution to this problem that I'm facing. So so yeah, so that I think is a good takeaway from this conversation already for any of our parents that are listening, and teachers that are listening. Keep this in mind too, because we want to encourage the students that you have in your classroom to be thinking for themselves, to help with that problem solving, and it may be by modeling it for them, by finding the solution for them, but involve them as part of that conversation so that they can have input on what the final solution is. So now I want to go into some of the fun stuff, because I haven't seen you for a couple years now, and I've heard some reports from your mom, what she posts on social media, and seeing a little bit of what you've been doing. But you've had some really interesting experiences in the last few years. Do you want to tell us about some of the camps that you've gone to? We'll start with that.
Yeah, so there's a couple that I've gone to over the past few years. I think my favorite being Space Camp. They have a week down in Huntsville, Alabama, specifically for visually impaired students. The full name is SkyViz, Space Camp for Interested Visually Impaired Students. If you go to skyviz.org, you can see a little bit more about kind of what they are, what they do. But yeah, so we go to Huntsville for a week down at the Space and Rocket Center. It's a week-long residential camp, and we get to do a whole bunch of cool stuff, like shuttle simulations, team building exercises. We get to do some of the training that like astronauts do as they're going through their training to work on the International Space Station. We learn all about like past, present, and future space missions, and kind of what we've accomplished. And then the best part is you get to do 2 to 3, depending on what group you're in, simulated space missions. And so each person is assigned a different role. And so, they make it so real. I mean, it's great. You have checklists and everything. They have Braille, large print, regular print, anything you need. They have I don't know what you would call them, but like for the shuttle, you're like actually on like a cockpit thing, and so you get to flip like all the switches, and if you're on the International Space Station, you get to do experiments and
Wow.
read data from computers. And I mean, it's great, and everything is brailled and labeled with Braille, and the computers talk. And so everything is 100% accessible. And I think my favorite had to be this past year when I went. I did the Space Advanced Academy, which is for 15 to 18-year-olds. And we have a 4-hour space mission. And
Wow.
on top of regular problems that can come up during a mission, we're all assigned like a certain character, and that character has like a underlying health condition. So like I don't know, like an allergy to a certain food or medicine or whatever. And so on top of like, you know, your engine's not firing right, you may have the pilot has had a heart attack or something, and you get to act it out and do all this stuff, and it's really great. It's so much fun, and it can get really crazy really quick.
Wow.
I was on the International Space Station for that mission, and we got done with our mission, and we're coming out, and I overheard some of the people in mission control talking, and they were like, yeah, that fire we had in here was crazy. And so they must have had a big fire in mission control.
So you don't know what's happening in the scenario on the other part of the mission.
Right. So
Oh.
we have headsets that we use to communicate, and so people in mission control some of them can talk to just the shuttle and people in mission control, and some of them can just talk to the people others in mission control, and some of them can just talk to the International Space Station and mission control. So depending on your role depends on who you're talking to. And so you may not, like, since I was on the International Space Station, I had no clue what was going on in mission control or on the shuttle. But for a previous mission, I was in mission control and my job was to communicate with those on the shuttle. So I was, telling them, okay, fire your engines, do this checklist, making sure everything was going how it was supposed to. And so they, I mean, it's totally incredible and it's really fun.
Wow,
But yeah.
I didn't realize that it was that elaborate at the end. So that
Oh
does
yeah.
sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah, because there's like a person in each of the areas and they'll kind of go up to you. So like if I was over at a control panel, she may go up to the other person who was working in there and be like, you are now, getting electrocuted or, having a heart attack. And I would turn around and, my crewmate would be doing this thing and I had to communicate with mission control and, figure out what was wrong and everything.
Interesting. I'm sure you had some good actors sometimes too.
Yes.
All right, so that's space camp. So how many years have you been going to that?
Let's see. I have been there a total of 5 times.
And then you've done some other camps too, though.
I
At least
have,
one that I know of. But tell us what else you've done.
I've done, so the C camps, SEE, has a couple of camps, and I've done 2 of them. I've done the adventure camp, which is a week-long residential camp at the Nantahala Outdoor Center, and you get to go hiking, whitewater rafting, zip lining, and they have an incredible zip line course there. The half a mile zip is by far the best zip line I've ever been
Wow,
on.
that's a long zip line.
It is. And it's very fast too. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And again, that's for all VI kids.
So that's C. Who runs that?
Jay Hardwig, and he also does another one which I've gone to twice. One year I was at Camp Dogwood, and we did things like paddle boarding, kayaking. We went tubing, like being pulled behind a speedboat. That was by far my favorite part of that camp. And then the second time I went, they had it at YMCA Camp Haynes, and so they have a whole bunch of stuff there. They have like kayaking and paddleboarding, but that's where I did the archery
Oh, okay.
that I was talking about earlier. And let's see, they have a zip line where you zip, but you land in the lake, which is really cool. They have a bunch of, it's just a mix of a whole bunch of different stuff really, but it's a really cool experience. It's just a good mix of everything really, and that one again is all for VI as well.
What age is the C camp?
The C camps are rising 8th through 12th graders.
Okay, so the older kids. And
Yeah,
then
and then space camp is usually like 5th to 6th grade to 12th grade.
okay. Yeah, but they have different levels because you were saying you were at the advanced one.
Yes, they have different levels, and so they break it up every 2 to 3 grade levels, and so your 6th grader won't be in a group with 9th graders, kind
Okay.
of thing. Like it's more broken up. And then another one I've done is surf camp, done at Wrightsville Beach. But it's a few days that you get to go surfing for a couple hours each day with a surf instructor. So you're assigned either 1 to 2 surf instructors, and it's. I mean, I know you're sending your kid out into the ocean with a stranger, but there is more instructors usually than there are students. And again, it's all VI students. And so even when you're riding the wave in, there'll be someone there usually to kind of as you get off the board, they'll be there to kind of help you get back out till you meet back up with your instructor and all of that. And so they're not just sending a bunch of VI kids out into the ocean with 9 foot long surfboards.
Now surfing,
But
I've never done surfing, but I understand what it is. Balance is going to be hard for anyone. How long did it take you to stand up the first time, or did you get it right away?
The first year I did stand up. It took a while though because I was petrified the first day. But just really because you don't have to stand on your board. You can lay down or kneel. Some people kneel before standing. So like even now I always take either one or two waves laying down to get a feel for kind of how the waves are moving that day, and then before I stand up, because it does take a while, even um though I've done it for like 6 7 years. It does take a while to get your sea legs back, to figure out how to stand back up on this 2 foot wide board,
Yeah,
to
I
to
couldn't do
ride
it.
this wave.
I know I would not have the coordination to do it and to stay up.
Yeah,
Maybe when I was your age.
it's definitely hard because you get leaning in one direction and you're falling. I remember one time me and my brother caught a wave in together, and we were like back to back. Like I could have lifted my foot and stepped onto his board, but our boards, or I can't remember if it was our boards or like us, had knocked into each other, and
No.
I started falling and I fell right onto his board, and so we just came ashore in this big pile of boards and each other. But
That
it had to be really funny to watch from shore. But yeah, you just have to find that center balance and stay there.
wow. Now, so you've done the camps, and those are different times of the year depending on which camp it was.
Yeah, most of them are in the summer.
Now, is space camp in the summertime?
Space camp is in September.
The now some of the other activities that you're doing now. Tell us about that.
So currently I swim on a swim team. I've been doing that, oh goodness, since I was like 7 8 years old probably. So I use like a water hose with a like a sprayer thing you would use to water like your plants or something.
Yeah.
um I have one of those at each end, and so I have it two strokes out, and so when I feel the water from the sprayer, which is usually way colder than the water in the pool, I know that I'm two strokes out from the wall, that I need to either take two strokes and finish, or stroke and flip turn, or whatever distance I'm doing. But other than that, like, I have enough vision that I can see the black line at the bottom of the pool, and so that's really the only accommodation for swimming that I need.
And
And
I
then
see the
I'm
medals behind you. Are those all your swimming medals?
Yes, they are. I have a whole bunch of swimming medals back here.
That's pretty cool. Do you swim with just a local team that's in your community?
Yeah, I swim with the New Wave swim team. It's a pretty big swim team in the state. We have multiple locations. But like the pool I swim at is just 10 minutes down the road, so it's really nice.
When you were first swimming with the team, did you have any trouble with getting the kids to accept you and to work with you, like for relays, I'm thinking?
We don't really do many relays. It did take a while for like my teammates to kind of open up a little. I kind of have the same people in my lane each day, and so they've kind of gotten used to me. And I guess I should mention, I have an app on my phone that I connect to a Bluetooth speaker. Um, and so if you know anything about swimming, you know, like during a practice, we'll have an interval clock. And so it goes from 0 to 60 seconds and then repeats. And so if we have a set of 50 yards on the minute, that means every time the clock hits 0, we start another 50 yards. And so I have an app on my phone that my coach will start for me every practice. That way, it's in sync with the clock on the wall. And so as the clock on the wall is showing like 30, my phone is saying 30.
Oh, nice.
And so that way I can hear the intervals. The only thing really with my teammates in my lane is, you know, if I bump you or something, you know, just know it may happen. But I mean, we all bump each other and everything, especially if we're swimming. It's kind of, you know, we all bump into each other.
Like you're saying, everybody bumps into each other, but just being open about it, saying, you know, like it's nothing personal if I bump into you. I just
right.
It's just going to
just
happen sometimes.
Happen. If I bump you and it's in a weird spot, I'm sorry. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do it.
It wasn't personal. I promise.
Yes.
So what else are you doing? I know you are a busy girl, so you have a lot of stuff going on.
Yes. I'm also in a local band. I play euphonium, which is like it looks like a small tuba. It kind of sounds like the cross between a French horn and a tuba. And so I'm able to hold and play that with one hand. That way I can read the Braille music with the other hand. So I'm playing and holding it with my right hand, and I'm reading the music with my left hand. And I do have a shoulder strap as well, because like I sit and play, and so the instrument rests on my leg, and so the bell of the instrument where the sound comes out is it's about 2 inches above my head if I'm sitting kind of like I am now. It's definitely a big instrument, and so the shoulder strap just helps take some of that tension off of my hand so I can push down the valves. But in terms of kind of following the director, each director, even for a sighted person, I've heard each director has a different kind of conducting style. And so everyone's trying to figure out the conducting style. Like if you go to like a band clinic or something like that, which is just like a weekend long program, you audition. If you get in, you go for 2 to 3 days and you work on some pieces that you've probably never seen before. And then you put on a concert at the end of that weekend. Those are really fun. I've done a couple of those, and it can be up to from like 60 to 100 people. So way more than what's in the band that I'm in, which only has about 15 to 20 people. You're obviously listening to the other people around you, and listening to a recording of the piece beforehand definitely helps to kind of know, okay, this is how my part fits in here, since I can't see the conductor and know, okay, you know, what beat we're on. Having to count it's important for anyone, but it's
yes, it is.
even more important for me, because obviously the director has like a pattern they do with their baton to signal the different beats, but for me, I can't see that, and so I just have to know, okay, I think this is beat 1. You know, if it's not, you know, you can usually tell if you play a note kind of funny or out of time or something.
So what was the first instrument that you played? Was this the first instrument that you tried?
Yes, I've always played euphonium in band.
Did you know to read music, how to read music before you tried that?
No. So I kind of, when I started in beginning band, no one really knew how to read music, and so as everyone else was reading print music, I was reading Braille music.
Okay.
And so I kind of learned along with the rest of the band.
So we have band, we have all the camps that you've done. We have I missed anything there?
Swim,
right? And then you have school, of course. And
yes.
just being a normal kid. But then you were telling me that you've had your first job now too. So tell me about this.
Yes, I have an internship at Showdoor. What they do is it's like different science or math topics, and over the summer they'll do like different workshops. So they'll have like different like classes that they'll do. But what I'm doing is I'm working on one of the curriculums for one of their engineering
Oh, wow.
um courses, and so I am editing HTML files. So the files that make up a web page, I'm going in and I was changing. They're changing the title from um, engineers in training to explorations in engineering, and so I have to go into those HTML files and change that title. And that's what I was doing. But now I'm taking all those files I've edited and I'm uploading them because they're all on my computer, and I've got to upload them onto their server. So if someone were to go to the showdoor.org/explorations in engineering, they would find the curriculum that I've edited and worked on, not the old curriculum. And then I've also done some testing of some of like the they call them applets. And so what they do is one of the activities is to build a like a bridge. And so one of the activities things has an applet in it, and that applet is where you can kind of simulate that bridge. And so I was testing the accessibility of that applet and kind of writing, this is how you navigate it with NVDA or how you navigate it with VoiceOver. And so I'm currently working on adding that file into the HTML files that reference that specific applet.
Oh, nice. Nice. So,
Mm-hmm.
so you're able to give them good feedback on what they have already.
Yes.
And then, so is it like a tutorial that you've done now for other people or for the programmers?
It's just a web page that I've coded, and so if you are a screen reader user and you go through that curriculum, there'll be a link that says something like, if using a screen reader, click here, and if you click there, it will show you, okay, if you're using NVDA, you use, arrows to go through these checkboxes, tab to go here, this is kind of how the page is laid out, stuff like that. And so,
Okay. Nice.
it's just in the general lesson.
Right. You're a junior this year, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
So you'll be graduating next year. Do you know what you're going to do after you finish school?
I am planning to attend college. I'm really hoping to go to North Carolina State University. I'm either planning to study some sort of engineering or like computer science. I'm really interested in cybersecurity and cryptography, like digital forensics, stuff like that. And so I really don't know as of right now. There's so much out there and it's constantly changing, but that's what I'm really interested in.
So you've been doing the dual enrollment program. Is this your first year?
Yes, this is my first year. So I started the dual enrollment program when I started my junior year of high school. So last semester I took an intro to engineering course, and this semester I'm taking calculus. I'm only taking one course, and then the rest of my courses are through high school.
That's what I was wondering, if you were going to work toward your associates first. But if you're going to go on to a 4-year school, then you're getting some of the basic classes behind you now.
Yes.
To go. That's nice. In North Carolina, for our listeners, the CCP program is what she's talking about. That's the dual enrollment. If you're not in a middle college, then you do have that option starting as a junior. And I believe most states have something comparable to that. So check with your local school system, check with your local community college system, and see if they have something that your child can plug into. But I think most of them, you have to be a junior in high school to do that. And your school has to agree with it as well. So, but in North Carolina, all the students have that as an option, provided that their grades are meeting the qualification to get into the school. So that sounds good. So what do you see yourself doing whether you do the engineering or was it cybersecurity that you said? Or
Yeah,
you were looking more
cybersecurity.
or forensics.
No, so cybersecurity is kind of the broad field that digital forensics, cryptography, kind of all of that falls into. And so cybersecurity is kind of like saying I want to go into engineering. It's a very broad field.
What do you think your ideal job would be, thinking about it now?
I don't know. I want something with a lot of excitement. I do not like to do the same thing every day. You know, I want some excitement. I want to be in the middle of the action. I want to be discovering things or, solving problems or, you know, I like to be challenged. I don't like to just do the same thing every day.
So, all right. Well, we are going to move now into our speed round. I'll give you the directions. For those who haven't listened to an episode before, they'll know what it is too. But there's going to be 10 questions, and we're giving this to all of our guests. And over time, we're going to track the typical responses and to see who our outliers are and who falls into the normal range. And of the 10 questions, the first 3 are open-ended. The 7 after that are just an either or. So I'll give you 2 words. You just choose which one you want to say. And the best way to go through this is just to say the first thing that pops into your mind. And if you overthink it, you can make it more complicated than it really is.
Okay.
And there's no right or wrong answer. If you're really stumped, you can say pass. So are you ready?
I am.
All right. So the main thing is you want to have fun with this. So the first 3 questions. The first one is your favorite color.
Purple.
The last book that you read.
Oh goodness. I don't know. I read like 5 books at one time.
You do not have to have finished it. So just one of the ones that you're reading, I guess.
Let's see. Gone with the Wind.
Ooh, I like that. Favorite holiday.
Holiday. Christmas.
And now these are the either or. So cake or ice cream.
Cake.
Batman or Superman.
Superman.
Ocean or mountains.
Ocean.
Winter or summer.
Summer.
Watch a movie or read a book.
Both.
Okay. Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings.
Harry Potter.
And Twitter or Instagram.
Instagram.
All right. You may have gotten that pretty close to the 30 seconds that I said I'm not going to time anymore. So you were our 4th person to do it. I had to do it, and Steve had to do it. So we will see. But I know you're the first purple as far as favorite colors. So we'll see if we start getting some more of those. You had said that that if they had questions earlier that they could ask you. Where can our listeners reach you?
I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is O_Wilkerson04.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes and the description on the video if you're watching the YouTube video. Thank you, Olivia, for spending the time with us here and telling us about your life, about what some of your goals are coming up, and just the tips that you have for the parents and the kids, and even just a list of accommodations that we talk through are going to help parents as they're helping to put their IEPs together for their children. And hopefully some of the teachers that are listening will use that to help with their students as well. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on today.
Yeah, it was fun.
You've been listening to the second part of my interview with Olivia. The first part of the interview is listed under episode number 3, part 1. Be sure to listen to that one as Olivia explains her diagnosis and how it affects the vision she has. She describes her life as a young child and gives tips for parents and students who have similar visual impairments.
Olivia was a national finalist in the 2021 Braille Challenge. If you're not familiar with the Braille Challenge, it's a national competition for visually impaired students. They go through some pretty rigorous testing to prove their skills in reading and writing Braille, as well as having some fun built in between sessions. It's a great way to get connected with other visually impaired students.